Yo, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I would be talking about something that I think I have a rather unique stance on, and one that I've developed over the years, especially being on hip hop Twitter, and that has to do with expectations. Now, everyone and their mother has expectations. That's like a basic human thing to have, and it can determine how we feel about things before they even come out. And there's living up to expectations, there's failing expectations, and heightening expectations can vastly change your opinion on different things. Now, me, I think I have a rather unique stance when it comes to expectations, and for me, I usually never get my expectations up because I would always think that higher expectations will just are just guaranteed to lead to disappointment. And there's been many times where I've been proven right, mainly when albums and music and stuff is coming out. Because what I would see a lot on hip hop Twitter is they they super hype an album, and when it doesn't meet those unrealistic expectations, they just call it bad. Countless times I saw this happen with so many different albums, and it low key sucked. So that's one thing that inspired me to be like, all right, I'm not gonna do this because then I'm just gonna end up ruining a lot of my favorites. And I think the best way to show how I would use my expectations is give four examples, and two of them are examples that I got my expectations of and was disappointed, but then the rare instances where I got my expectations super high and they were not only met but then exceeded. And when that happens, let me tell you, it is one of the best feelings ever. I just it is like so satisfying to have them met, not only met but then just exceeded, because now you basically you're just right, and who doesn't like being right? So my four things, I'm gonna have two games and two albums, and obviously one for each side, being disappointment and then exceeding expectations. So to start off with the game, right? If any of you guys play Dokkan Battle, then this one will make perfect sense to you. So for background context, Vegito is my favorite Dragon Ball character of all time. I love Vegito to death. Vegeta versus Buhan, Vegeta versus Infinite Samasu, two of my favorite fights in Dragon Ball. He is just so cool. He's just arrogant. It just messes around every single fight. Just clowns who he's fighting. That's the GOAT. I love Vegeta Blue. So, when it gets announced that the worldwide, which is when both versions of the game, because it's in English and Japanese, when both versions of the game have a joint celebration where everything drops at the exact same time, and we get the same units and all that. So my hype when we learned that the headliners for the celebration would be a Vegito Blue, which was a Goku and Vegeta that would transform into Vegito Blue, and it merged Zamasu, the corrupted merged Zamasu from their fight. My hype was through the roof because that is one of my favorite fights in Dragon Ball Super. I love that fight so much. However, when the details get revealed, that's when I start to be like, oh, this is what we're doing. Because their base form is awful, to say the least. It was not good. Maybe at the time of release, well, I guess on release they were okay, but they were not good. And then their transformation condition, oh my god, their transformation condition was awful. I'll probably pop it up on screen, but it was so bad. One of the worst ones we've seen since probably since AGL LR Gohan. It was that bad. And it did not help the fact that not all of the almost all of the units that were released around him were just infinitely better. Because then in part two, it was Future Gohan and Sword of Hope Trunks, and Future Gohan was one of the best units in the game. Then they easy aid Tech Trunks and AGL Zamasu, and AJ Masu was one of the best units in the game, who basically had a perfect friend with the LR that just came out in part one. So I like my disappointment was, and I got so hyped for this just to be completely and utterly let down by the fact that Vegeta was just so mid. And as time went on, he got even more mid. Like, oh my god, he aged out like so fast. I was so mad because on release, if you could somehow get Vegito out, he was crazy. He was crazy, crazy good. Probably one of the best units in the game when he transformed. But you never saw his transformation, and that's what made me so mad. Because with Zamasu's domain, you usually always saw it with the teams that he was running on. In his domain, he was quite literally indestructible. He could not be hit. Every time he got hit, 0 damage. It was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. I was my disappointment was like beyond immeasurable. Now, when it comes to music, you got to talk about one of my favorite artists that I'm honestly so down to do a video on and just look through all their stuff because I love this artist so much. So, in 2020, City Girl had dropped 2 albums on the same day. It was Goddess of the Hollow and Siren of the Formless. I listened to them with someone I was close with at the time. We listened to them both like right when they came out. They were both very very good. I loved both of them. Goddess of the Hollow was probably one of my favorite albums of the year, actually. So, 2 weeks later, because these albums, the dual album dropped on April 14th. 2 weeks later, on April 28th, she drops "See Girl," and I was like, "Oh my god!" We're getting fed. We're getting fed. So, or not 2 weeks later. I guess a year and 2 weeks later, we get "See Girl," and like I was mad hype because the last 2 albums were just so good, and I was like, yes, I cannot wait for more City Girl music when this person drops. It's like a celebration for me. So it comes out. I start listening to it. I forgot. I think I was at something for a sister's school when it came out, and I was listening to it, and like I didn't know how to feel exactly, and I started to feel. I then quickly became very, very disappointed, very quickly, because like it was pretty different from what she'd been doing previously, which was a lot of like, uh, I guess like lo-fi, electronic, that sort of like music, and this one was definitely more like, let's just say like indie pop, and of course, I mean some of the songs were amazing, like the intro, Pack It Up Boy, uh the title track. Her title tracks are always very very good. Let It Go, and then See the outro. All those songs I think were on release. I thought they were very very good. But then like the album as a whole, I felt so indifferent. I didn't know what to really think. And that led me to be very disappointed because I was very very hyped to get another album in a relatively short amount of time. And it sucked even more because I mean, just a year ago she dropped a double album, or I guess double EPs on the same day, and they were both like amazing. Well, maybe not amazing. Goddess of the Hollow was amazing, but I had to come around to Siren of the Formless, which I now think is very very good. And then with Seagirl, I think that I've definitely started to come around to it. I've re-listened to it a couple times recently, and I definitely like it a lot more than I did on release. But that original feeling of being like let down and disappointed will probably won't go away because, with more context, this was the last album that she dropped for 3 years. So from that point onward, like I was expecting another album in 2022, And I was like, all right, where is it? And then 2023 comes around. I was like, wait, where'd she go? And then I remember seeing a tweet. I could probably pull it up in this video, but I remember seeing a tweet where it's like, I'm probably not gonna drop until 2024, and I was like, oh man, we're gonna have to wait this long. However, when it did drop, and that album did drop not too long ago, as it was on the 6th of December, it was amazing. Oh my god, that could have counted as one of the albums that I got my hopes up for, and it far exceeded. But that's just like a little extra. So, oh yeah, I was so happy when that album dropped. I listened to it like nonstop. It's so good. I I was so glad that it came out. It was so peak, so peak. But things are not all doom and gloom. Like I said, those are just two examples of things that I got my hopes up for and I got let down. Now we get on to things that I got my hopes up very high for, and they not only met those hopes and exceeded them. So we're gonna start with the game. I've not been as hyped for a game release as I had been for Metaphor Refundagio. I learned about this game because one of my friends who was getting into like that the Atlas sphere, let's say at the time, had shown me the Japanese trailer for the game. And I was like, "Wait, this looks really cool." And he was like, "Yeah, these characters look really cool." So like this I would probably get this game when it releases. So then later on, he pulls up the English trailer for the game and we watch it together and it shows even more stuff and I'm like, nah, I need to get this game day one when it drops. So further down the road from that, the demo for the game comes out, and this is something I'm very glad that Atlas started doing is releasing demos for games, and they because they saw how it impacted sales, and I'm very glad they did that. But the demo comes out for the game. He actually plays through a lot of the demo before I get a chance to, so I watch him play through most of the demo, and the game looks so good. The combat looked super interesting as it was more similar to uh the Shinigami Tensei style of Persona 1 and Persona 2, and then just normal Shinigami Tensei games where your whole group, your whole like team fights with 5 members, and like they're all laid out in front of you. You can pick targets. It's amazing. And I once I get to play the demo, I played through all of it and I was like, we're getting this game when it finally releases. So my birthday rolls around and I don't think I've bought something faster in my life. I like lightning bought the ultimate edition of this game to get all the outfits and music and like the handbook and stuff like that. And when I start playing through past the demo, oh my god, it was just peak after peak after peak after peak. I had so much fun playing this game, bro. Oh my, it was a every single penny I spent on this game was worth it. 93 hours to beat the first save. It was generational. I had so much fun. I the game of the year. It deserved every single award it got at not only the game awards. It did miss out on game of the year, but I'm not even really that mad because Astrobot looks like it was really fun and a very cute game. So kudos to Astrobot. But this is game of the year for me. If you have not played this game, I beg that you play this game because it is so good. And even with a bit of retrospect and take off a bit of the hype glasses, there's definitely some slight issues near the end of the game, but it's so good. This is one of the games I would recommend everyone and their mother play. It is that good. It's so good. And if you already like Persona and if you like also like high fantasy, It's just those things put together, and it's outstanding. Like the world building, like all of the characters are just amazing. Like even from when you just have three team members, like they're just so all their stories are so good. Like Stroll is probably one of my favorite like Atlas characters ever, just period. And the voice acting, both English and Japanese, is amazing. The final villain, oh my god, what an elite villain! Like there's so many good things I could say about this game, but if I kept going, we'd be here all day. So that is what happens when I get super hyped for a game and they're just met and exceeded. For the album, if you know me and you know me well, you know for a fact that Travis Scott is my favorite artist, like ever. One of my first albums that I listened to was Rodeo, and that's my favorite album of all time. I have the vinyl for it and everything. I love Travis Scott, and ever since Astroworld dropped and he started teasing Utopia, I was sitting there waiting, hoping, praying that the album would come out. It was like I did not become one of those like people who got like so delusional about the album coming out. Like it's dropping today. You see all the signs. The stars are connecting for it to drop on this day at this time. Like I wasn't doing all of that, but I was seeing people doing all of that, and I was like, I understand. I want this album too, bro. Please, just drop it. Because from 2018, I think the only stuff that he dropped was I don't Jack Boys. I think came out in 2020. No, yeah, Jack Boys came out in like 2020, and then for solo, the only things that came out between Astroworld and Utopia, I think, was the highest in the room single, Escape Plan and Mafia, and then he did a single for Tenet. Those are the only like those were like some of the only tidbits that we got between those 5 years. However, when the rollout finally started and it finally came out on July 28th, oh my god, I bro, you like the grin, like the ear to ear grin that was on my face basically the entire album when I was listening. Oh, cuz normally when music comes out, I'll just add all of the albums and then listen to them at a later date. Like this is one of the rare times where I stayed up for the release and listened like the minute it released, I started playing it, and I was not disappointed, bro. I like I was oh my god, bro. I was so you don't understand how happy I was. I was so happy. Like the God's Country League finally becoming an actual song. Uh, Meltdown with they get crazy Drake feature. I mean, no matter how you feel about Drake, that feature was crazy. Feed just I know like trying to figure out all of the features as well since they were all hidden. Like it was a blast. I had so much fun, and if I could get this album on vinyl, I would get it in a heartbeat because man, that the wait was worth it. The wait was worth it. That's gonna sum up my thoughts on how expectations should really work because to me, as I said, I rarely get my hopes up like super high for things, and this is it's been proven to work. It works, but then like the two examples I first mentioned, there's times where I do it and still get disappointed even though I get really hyped for it. And most of the times that doesn't happen though. And there were definitely a lot of other honorable mentions that I left out. A big honorable mention that I left out was King Krul's album from 2023, Space Heavy. Very I got my hopes up for that. Exceeded. Very good album. Please listen to it. That's gonna do it for me. I'll be seeing all of you guys tomorrow. Like and subscribe.